This is the results summary for the Farsight Institute's Time Cross project for February 2017. Now, remote viewers working at the Farsight Institute reported the major news events for February 2017 using remote viewing, all done and published on YouTube for all to see in January 2017, the month before the events happened. Now, we compare our remote viewing predictions to the actual news after the event month is finished, and that is what you are watching now. We compile a table of events using our 4 featured news outlets and update it daily on our website. We normally expect the major news events to be covered in our featured news outlets, but sometimes important news events are covered only in alternative news outlets, and when that happens, we link to those stories in our news analysis table. Well, we had 3 remote viewers working for this edition of the Time Cross project: Dick Allgaier, Aziz Brown, and Princess Genet. Now, starting with Dick Allgaier, he began by reporting a number of brief perceptions that he calls tagging. These are not full remote viewing sessions, just perceptions that are essentially brief mental images relating to various events that will happen the following month. He also did one full remote viewing session, which I will cover in just a bit. Now, for Dick's tagging perceptions, he first reports a large and historically important structure that is severely damaged by fire. Now, during the month of February 2017, 3 historically important buildings were destroyed by a major fire in Kansas City, Missouri, in the 18th and Vine Jazz District on February 2nd. There was not enough detail in Dick's tagging perception to definitively identify this as the fire event, but at least we can say that such an event did happen in the month of February. Now, second, Dick reported a prison break associated with chaos, confinement, entrapment, and a door that was opened. And in fact, this was a major event in the state of Delaware. On the 1st of February, a prison riot with a hostage situation began. A guard was killed. Now, such events are very rare in the United States, so this clearly does seem to be an accurate perception for the month of February. Now, third, Dick reports an iconic photo being taken of President Trump and another world leader in which both leaders are shown holding their hands or raising their hands together. Now, in fact, this exact thing did happen between President Donald Trump and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe on February 11th while golfing at the Trump National Golf Club in Jupiter, Florida. President Trump tweeted a photograph of the event, so this clearly did happen. There was also a very long handshake between the 2 leaders when they were both wearing suits during a public presentation that was captured on camera. So, again, this perception seems to have occurred. Next, Dick perceives a violent confrontation involving the death of a man of color that is caught on video. Now, Dick thinks that this is probably an African American due to the non-white skin color, but it turns out he got the ethnicity of the person wrong. Indeed, our most heavily reported major event for the month of February was the assassination of Kim Jong-nam, the brother of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, when he was murdered in Malaysia in public, and the entire thing was caught on video. Dick's sketch of the victim is remarkably accurate. Remember, remote viewing is not perfect. Sometimes our remote viewers get just about everything correct, and sometimes they get it mostly correct, and sometimes they get it entirely wrong. Now, interpreting essentially fuzzy mental perceptions correctly in every instance is not easy to do. Now, in this case, Dick got it mostly correct for this major news event that was extensively covered in our featured news outlets. Now, next, Dick reported someone sneaking around in a building, hiding behind things. Someone who is up to no good, a possible terrorist setup. This results in a significant outpouring of police and law enforcement, some military or SWAT teams, all within a major city. The terrorist apparently never gets to do an act of violence because of the quick response by the authorities. This event indeed did happen. on the 3rd of February when soldiers shot a machete-wielding man at the Louvre Museum in Paris, foiling an impending terrorist attack. Now, this story was covered in all of our featured news outlets. Now, in the last of Dick's tagging perceptions, he reports a heavy-set man lying in bed, naked, together with a naked and attractive woman. This results in an X-rated surveillance video that appears to be used for blackmail. Well, to our knowledge, this event was not reported in February 2017. Some people may wonder if our perception of this event caused authorities to intervene and stop the event, especially if it involved a national leader. But if that did happen, we have no way to know about it. So for our purposes, this appears not to have happened as we predicted. Finally, Dick Allgaier reported his longer formal remote viewing session for the month of February 2017. This session is not a brief tagging exercise, but a full remote viewing session conducted using both paper and pen as well as on video. Now, in this session, he reports a situation of total chaos. There is a vortex, debris everywhere, broken drywall, pieces of broken stuff all over the place, broken structures, muffled booms, mounds of rubble, lots of particulate matter in the air. There is a destruction event involving lots of haze and dust in the air. It reminds him of a 9/11 type event, but not involving such a large and vital structure as the Twin Towers. There are sirens in the distance, people screaming, and even building parts sticking up from the ground. He notes a possible depression, sort of like a crater, with surrounding structures, girders exposed, agitated voices. A building has collapsed in a catastrophic event involving civil defense. Now, to interpret this event, I'm going to have to talk about low-level analysis. This is a form of remote viewing analysis in which the major gestalts are reduced to their lowest level so that a conclusion can be drawn from the remote viewing perceptions. But before I do this, I want to discuss the session reported by Princess Genet that in many respects is very similar to Dick Allgaier's session. In Princess's session, she reports a destructive, even catastrophic event involving structures, commotion, anxiety, stuff in the air that looks like smoke, cries, energetic, something flying overhead, and chaos. Whatever is flying overhead is coming down, and it involves high levels of energy. The local subjects speak English, but with an accent. She describes it as similar to a 9/11 event involving lots of debris, using many of the same words as used by Dick Allgaier. People, like guards, are rushing to protect other people. Most importantly, she repeats that something is falling out of the sky. She is confused in that the event does not feel like an accident, but it is not entirely planned either. Now, let's use a basic level of low-level analysis to look at both Dick's and Princess's sessions. Neither remote viewer report an actual cause of the destruction event, like a bomb blast. There is no airplane crash, no military attack, no shooting of any kind. There is just destruction that involves lots of debris as well as stuff in the air, lots of stuff in the air. It is the type of destruction that a military or terrorist attack could cause, but the attack itself is missing from the data. There is no attack. Given the lack of a human cause for the event, a low level of analysis would predict that the event will involve major destruction of structures. The cause will likely involve something that moves quickly, but not a single physical item, nothing like an airplane crash, for example. The event will involve huge levels of energetics that can cause high levels of destruction. People will be caught off guard with this. It will not be an event that people will see coming. It will be a surprise. There will be lots of particulate matter in the air, and the event will be accompanied by something that is airborne that comes down, but it will not be a physical man-made object or bomb. A highly destructive surprise weather event involving centralized cloud dynamics could cause such a situation with destruction similar to that of a terrorist event in terms of devastation. A hurricane could cause such destruction, but it would not be a surprise, so that cause would be ruled out. But tornadoes could be a cause of such an event. Well, that would be the best a low-level analysis could do. The key here is to note that neither Dick nor Princess could identify a human-made cause of the event. No bomb, no crash, just destruction, with lots of airborne debris that has clouds in the air like smoke. Well, as it turns out, February 2017 was one of the worst months on record in the United States with respect to tornadoes. There were 2 major tornado swarms. First, on February 7th, 7 tornadoes ripped through Louisiana. New Orleans was slammed and a state of emergency was declared. Then, on the 28th of February, 22 major tornadoes ripped through the Midwest United States, causing massive destruction, with 3 dead. Now, the level of force with these tornadoes was astounding by any measure. Structures were ripped apart like popped balloons. You have to understand that when a remote viewer puts his or her mind into such a situation, they are going to be overwhelmed by the level of energetics that are involved in the event, the destruction, the speed at which things are happening. It will look like chaos to a remote viewer. The type of chaos that they normally see with huge terrorist events. Now, an analyst will look for signs that it is not a terrorist event by noting that nothing is exploding like a bomb and no one is shooting. Law enforcement seems to be totally defensive. There is no military response. There is also another clue. Look at this sketch from Dick Algire's paper session. From these things, a tornado event seems likely, and that indeed is what happened. Now, on to the remote viewing sessions done by Aziz Brown. Aziz did 2 sessions for February 2017, and in his first session, he reports a V-shaped structure with lots of water on one side. He sees lots of haze in the air that makes him think of smoke from fire, but he does not see any fire. Nearby subjects are staring at clouds. The subjects are wearing baggy attire with headgear, and they are in a state of shock. They are on top of a man-made platform. Aziz definitively states that this is not an attack. It is not a military event, but it is an unfortunate turn of events. The V shape of the structure seems to resemble the shape of a large boat, and this confuses Aziz to some extent, but he does not describe the rest of such a boat structure, just the V shape. Now, again, using low-level analysis, an analyst would say that this is a potentially dangerous situation or event. No disaster occurs, but the threat of a disaster appears imminent. Normally, when remote viewers describe a boat, they sketch the entire boat in the water. They never describe just a V shape. The fact that Aziz does not sketch or describe the entire boat in the water suggests that this V shape is not associated with a boat. This situation involves a V-shaped structure, human subjects in emergency or construction gear, lots of water, and clouds that attract the attention of the workers. The situation probably involves a weather event. Again, this is what an analyst would draw from this session using only low-level terms. Well, as it turns out, this exactly describes the essence of the situation involving the Oroville Dam in California during February 2017. The Oroville Dam is the tallest dam in California, and the record-breaking rain that started in January and continued into February caused an emergency situation at the dam. The emergency spillway was destroyed. Water was flowing over the top of the dam, and there was a real fear that the dam would be structurally compromised and wipe out towns that were downstream. Indeed, there were 2 emergency evacuations of the downstream towns. The shape of the dam is exactly as Aziz described, a V shape. Moreover, the emergency workers at the site were just as Aziz described. Now, for Aziz's second session, he describes a tubular craft shaped like a rocket or missile with electronics and technology inside. There are hilly landscapes below with some structures in the lower and flatter areas. He describes these as light urban. The missile seems to hit the urban area. The missile originates from a military aircraft. There are not many people in the area hit by the missile, and only a few subjects are visible. Now, this last session is not difficult to sort out. there is ongoing military events in the Middle East. In particular, in February, there were multiple drone, missile, and bombing attacks by the United States on what is reported to be al-Qaeda targets in Yemen. There was also a North Korean ballistic missile launch on February 11th, but that missile was launched from the ground and it went into the sea. So it appears most likely that Aziz is describing a U.S. attack in Yemen, since his description very closely matches what happened there. So as you can see, our Time Cross project is producing interesting results. Sometimes the events that we report to you are more challenging to sort out than at other times. Also, some of you may wonder if reporting the news in advance of events happening is useful if we cannot always add detailed specifics to the remote viewing reports. It is a good question, one with a few answers. First, sometimes we may perceive an event with sufficient detail that we truly want to avoid, and in some instances it may be possible to do something to prevent the event from happening. Now this raises the issue of multiple timelines, or what some like to call parallel universes, where an event that happens in one timeline is prevented in another timeline. But there is another reason for doing all this. Once an event that is perceived begins to happen, it is possible to see what happens next as that event continues to evolve by looking at the remote viewing session. For example, at least for February 2017, once the Oroville Dam event began, it was clear from Aziz's remote viewing session that the dam does not collapse at that time, or at least not in February. So we get some idea of how things will turn out during that month once they begin. But of course, there is another reason for doing all this. We are having fun while learning more about how the remote viewing phenomenon works, and that is the best reason of all. No one ever knew how such an experiment would work out until we tried it, so now we are seeing the results. Timecross is also a useful testing ground for our newer viewers, such as Aziz Brown, Princess Janae, and very soon Melina Hall, where they can hone their skills and build their reputations. As these young and talented new viewers gain experience, they can move on to work in our Mysteries projects. Now remember also that when we do our Mysteries projects, we apply remote viewing differently as compared with our Time Cross project. With our Mysteries projects, the remote viewers are allowed to revisit a target repeatedly until they sort out all the important details. Now, we simply do not have the time to do this with our monthly Time Cross targets, but that is why our Mysteries projects have so much detail. The viewers hammer away at those targets until they understand them thoroughly. Now, if you have not already done so, I hope you do get a chance to watch our recently released Mysteries project on the Roswell UFO crash. It is 3 hours of spine-tingling detail from 3 great remote viewers. And do remember to watch our other Mysteries projects as well, such as the investigations into the 9/11 events, the assassinations of John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King, the psychology of Adolf Hitler, and some amazing explorations into UFOs and extraterrestrial life. Now, as always, at Farsight, remote viewing work is done under totally blind conditions, with no communication between any of the remote viewers. It is also good to remember that when you watch our Mysteries projects, you are helping us at Farsight do our work, including the funding of our Time Cross project, which we offer free to the public, but which costs us a few $1,000s to do each month. We have no other significant source of income to pay the bills. So you really help when you follow and watch our activities and research. Finally, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Farsight Press, to keep up with the latest. There is nothing like Farsight anywhere else on the internet. You can find information about all of our present and past activities on our website. Also on our website, you can sign up for our free email newsletter. Stay ahead of the curve. Let the mainstream fade in the dust. Be there now.